We live in an age of endless content. Every second, millions of posts, videos, podcasts, and reels are being uploaded. YouTube is flooded with advice. TikTok keeps scrolling forever. Instagram never runs out of highlights from someone else's life. At first glance, this feels like a gift. All this information, all this inspiration available right at our fingertips. But if you step back and look deeper, you realize something troubling. Most people today are drowning in consumption, not growing through creation. They are spectators in their own lives, endlessly consuming what others produce, waiting for motivation, waiting for inspiration, waiting for something to push them forward. And that waiting becomes the trap. Think about it. How much of your time is spent watching instead of doing? How many hours disappear into scrolling? How many videos have you saved for later but never acted on? The truth is, the more we consume without creating, the more passive we become. We convince ourselves that watching is progress, that learning is enough, that motivation is the same as movement, but it's not. The person who watches 10 videos on productivity isn't necessarily productive. The person who reads books about starting a business hasn't built anything. The person who binge watches motivational content isn't moving closer to their goals. They're consuming action instead of taking action. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man who wanted to start his own business. He followed every big entrepreneur online, subscribed to dozens of channels, and bought stacks of self-help books. Every night he consumed hours of advice. He told himself he was preparing. He told himself he was learning. But when he looked at his life a year later, nothing had changed. His dream business was still just an idea. Why? Because he mistook consumption for creation. He thought knowledge alone was enough. But knowledge without action is like fuel never poured into an engine. It just sits there. This is the trap many of us fall into. We live in a culture that glorifies consumption. Platforms are designed to keep you hooked. YouTube autoplay, TikTok's infinite scroll, Instagram reels, Netflix recommendations, all engineered to feed you more. And the more you consume, the harder it is to break free and create. Because creation requires discomfort. Creation requires risk. Creation requires you to stop spectating and start contributing. And that's not easy. It's much safer to watch someone else take the risk while you nod along from the sidelines. But here's the reality. No one tells you. Consumption can only take you so far. You can watch someone paint, but you won't become an artist until you pick up a brush. You can study fitness routines all day, but your body won't change until you work out. You can read success stories for years, but you won't have your own until you take steps into the unknown. Consuming endlessly keeps you comfortable. Creating, on the other hand, forces you to grow. And this doesn't just apply to business or art, it applies to life itself. Every time you choose to consume instead of create, you're strengthening the habit of passivity. You're training your brain to seek stimulation instead of contribution. You're teaching yourself to be a follower instead of a leader. And here's the dangerous part. The more you consume, the more you feel like you're missing out, which leads you to consume even more. It's a cycle that never ends unless you break it. Why is this so hard to see? Because consumption feels good. Watching a motivational video gives you a dopamine rush. It tricks your brain into thinking you've accomplished something. You feel inspired, energized, like you're on the right path. But within an hour, the feeling fades and nothing in your reality has changed. Then you look for the next hit, the next video, the next piece of advice, and on it goes. This is the cycle of passive motivation. You feel progress, but you're not moving. You feel busy, but you're stuck in place. Here's another story. A woman I once knew wanted to get in shape. She followed every fitness influencer online, saved hundreds of recipes and workouts, and filled her phone with screenshots of routines she would start Monday. But Monday never came. Every week she told herself she was getting ready, learning more, preparing. But months later she looked the same, felt the same, and realized she had been consuming health instead of creating health. The turning point came when she finally stopped watching and started doing. She picked one simple workout plan and stuck with it. She cooked one real meal instead of scrolling through 20 recipes. Within weeks she felt progress, not because she consumed more knowledge, but because she created action. So how do you escape this trap? The answer isn't to stop consuming completely. We all need information, learning, and inspiration. But there's a line between consuming for fuel and consuming for distraction. The key is balance. For every hour you consume, ask yourself, what am I creating with this? If you watch a video about business, apply one lesson immediately. If you read about productivity, try one new system today. If you watch a tutorial, follow it with your own attempt. Otherwise, the content becomes entertainment. not education. The shift happens when you start measuring yourself not by what you've consumed, but by what you've produced. Did you create something today? Did you write a page, record an idea, build a skill, or take a step toward your goal? That's creation. That's progress. Consumption doesn't define your growth. Creation does, let's be real. Creating is uncomfortable. It exposes you. It means facing imperfection. Your first attempt will never be perfect. Your work will be judged. You will fail sometimes. That's why people hide behind consumption. It feels safe. It feels like preparation. But there's a saying, you can't learn to swim by watching videos about swimming. At some point, you have to get in the water. And here's the beauty of creation. Once you start, you realize how powerful it feels. The first time you make something of your own, whether it's a small project, a video, a piece of writing, a business idea, you feel a sense of pride that consumption can never give you. You shift from being a spectator to a participant. You stop waiting for life to inspire you and start inspiring yourself. Look at anyone you admire online. Entrepreneurs, creators, artists, leaders. They didn't get there by endlessly consuming. They got there by creating. They didn't wait until they had the perfect plan. They didn't binge-watch tutorials for years. They started messy. They learned by doing, and that's the only real path forward. Here's a practical exercise. Tomorrow, take one piece of content you usually consume and flip it into creation. Instead of watching a motivational video, write down 3 goals and take one step toward them. Instead of scrolling through recipes, cook one meal. Instead of saving tutorials, open your tools and try the project. You'll realize that even imperfect creation feels better than endless perfect consumption. Now, some people might say, but what if I'm not ready? What if I don't know enough yet? Here's the truth, you'll never feel fully ready. Readiness comes from action, not from waiting. No one in history ever felt 100% prepared before they started. They started anyway. They learned on the way. They adjusted as they moved. Consuming endlessly, waiting for the perfect moment, is just another form of procrastination. Another trap to avoid is comparing your early creations with someone else's polished results. Remember, when you consume content, you're usually seeing someone else's finished product. You're not seeing the hundreds of failed attempts, the mistakes, the learning curve. If you compare your messy beginning to someone else's highlight reel, you'll always feel behind. The cure for that is simple. Stop comparing. Keep creating. The shift from consumer to creator is one of the most powerful transformations you can make in your life. It's the difference between living passively and living actively, between being entertained and being fulfilled, between watching stories and writing your own. Creation builds confidence. Creation builds skills. Creation builds results. Consumption just fills time. So here's the challenge. For the next week, every time you catch yourself consuming, ask, what can I create from this? If you watch a video about writing, write something. If you scroll through business tips, apply one. If you feel inspired, channel it immediately into action. Don't let inspiration fade into another tab closed and forgotten. Turn it into something real. At the end of your life, you won't look back and feel proud of all the videos you watched, all the reels you saved, or all the books you never applied. You'll remember what you created, what you built, how you contributed, and what you left behind. So stop consuming endlessly. Start creating courageously. Step out of the cycle of passive motivation and into the practice of active growth. The world doesn't need more spectators. It needs more creators. And your life doesn't need more hype. It needs more action. At Unhyped, that's what we stand for. Cutting through the noise, breaking the addiction to passive consumption, and reminding you of the truth. Motivation is nothing without movement, and inspiration is wasted without action. So turn off the autoplay. Close the endless scroll. Take what you've learned and build something with it. Because when you stop consuming and start creating, you stop being a spectator and start becoming the main character of your own life.